So hello and welcome everyone to Rewiring Generosity, the audience is powering social good. I'm really excited to pass you over to Kathleen Murphy shortly, but I'll just be talking a little bit up front. So I'll be kind of like a go-between person today between both Pulsar and Giving Tuesday. So like I said, if you have any questions whatsoever about anything that maybe pertains to you or something that you see today, then please pop them in the Q&A box or pop them in the chat and we'll be addressing them kind of throughout if necessary, and definitely at the end as well. So without further ado, let's dive in. So brief introductory moment. I guess, Kat, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
I can
Just
do
shortly.
that. I can do
Thank
that.
you.
Hello, everybody. I am so honored to be with you today to share your morning or your afternoon, wherever it is you are in the world. I'm Kat Murphy-Toms. I am the Director of Digital Strategy here at Giving Tuesday. And what that means is that I study the use of digital tools. I study how social media is used to mobilize more good in the world. And I strategize around how to build power and generosity. And before joining the Giving Tuesday team, I worked in the nonprofit sector here in Chicago, which is where I live. Before that, I was a field director on Barack Obama's 2008 presidential campaign. And in my abundant spare time, I teach fundraising and social media at New York University, which is tons of fun. I adore teaching. It's part of the reason I'm so thrilled to be here with you all today.
Thank you so much. Well, I've never been part of a presidential campaign. I'm afraid I can't match those credentials at all. I'm Sal Morton. I'm the content marketing lead here at Pulsar. I kind of do all things webinars, all things reports, blogs, research, all the things that we do today. You'll be seeing a little bit about that. And yeah, I guess I'll dive in, tell you a little bit more about Pulsar. So I'm controlling Kat's screen, so I'll be kind of running on a little bit of a delay there. So all the data that you're about to see from me later, all the data that you'll see from me later on is from Pulsar. But who is Pulsar? What is Pulsar? You might be here for the Giving Tuesday, I imagine you are, or maybe you're here for Pulsar, who knows? So I'm not going to just read this slide at you, don't worry. I'm never going to be that person. I don't think you are either, are you?
Right.
At Pulsar, we gather conversational data from all across the internet. So that's sources such as Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, Reddit, and many, many more. We also offer sources such as Google Search, online news, forums, blogs, broadcast data from television and the radio as well. And we're all about offering the opportunity to see the conversations on the internet and realize the impossible task of reading the internet. So this allows brands to analyze their audiences and its sub-audiences, as well as answer discrete audience-based questions. So we offer all of that on our platform. And we also have an in-house research department that works kind of as a consultancy to be able to do that on your behalf as well. So here's just a sample of a few of the clients that we have helped out recently. As you can see, no two use cases are the same. My clicking around isn't working there. As you can see, no two use cases are the same. And so if you're interested in hearing about some ways that different brands, your brands, can utilize Pulsar, so please take a look at the resources page of our website or get in touch or pop something in the chat here and we'll be able to do that. But I guess without further ado, I should hand it over to Giving Tuesday, Kat Murphy.
Hand it over to Giving Tuesday. Okay. What I thought I would do is provide a little bit of background on Giving Tuesday, and then we'll get into some of the things that we learned about and are learning. It's always a constant learning process about generosity through paying attention to the online conversation, which is what Sal's going to talk about. I can't wait. You've probably heard the story by now. You most assuredly have. There's two really big shopping days here in the United States in November, and they're Black Friday and they're Cyber Monday. And what we did was we said, well, somebody better take Tuesday or else somebody else is going to take it and turn it into something like Extra Discounts Tuesday or something like this, right? Could we, instead of celebrating consumerism and capitalism and all of like getting stuff, could we create a holiday that's about the opposite of those things? Could we create a holiday that's celebrating giving and generosity? And it turns out that you could. Now, this was in the very nascent days of Twitter. So I remember very clearly being on the phone with these like nonprofit development directors who were a bit confused. And we would say, no, you have to put the pound sign in front of it. Yes, pound Giving Tuesday. And it's just amazing how far that we've come. So while Giving Tuesday started out as a really scrappy, wild experiment, it ended up turning into a massive global movement. And just this last year, this happened, this slide that we've been sitting on for a few minutes now. On Giving Tuesday last year, $3.1 billion, that's billion with a B, was given to charitable organizations in the United States in 24 hours alone. $3.1 billion. That's an absolutely massive amount of money. And it's mostly made up of like $50 to $100 donations given by average, ordinary, everyday individuals. Absolutely massive amount of money. But people don't just give money, though. I'm missing a slide. That's odd. That's okay. They don't just give money. People give their time. They give their voice. They give their energy. They loan their networks to spread the ideas about generosity. And we recognize at Giving Tuesday that when it comes to resourcing systemic change, the collective dreaming that we're all doing, the work that's needed to build the new world that we all want to live in, this sort of work is necessary, and we need to start celebrating and encouraging every single contribution that someone can make, no matter what type, no matter who they are in the world, no matter where they are. So, oh, there's my missing slide. They got flip-flopped. We had 37 million participants in Giving Tuesday in the US this year. Our data infrastructure is growing, and we're learning how to understand these numbers and what they are outside of the United States. There are 90 now official Giving Tuesday nations that participate in Giving Tuesday and lead Giving Tuesday locally. So like Giving Tuesday Kenya, Giving Tuesday Italy, we're all over. We're very, 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 very big. There's activity that takes place on every single continent and every single corner of the earth, whether that's someone organizing a food drive, or they are talking about their volunteerism, or they're sharing about their favorite nonprofit on social media. We're intergalactic now, actually, which thrills me to no end. I think it was a few years ago now, an astronaut tweeted from the ISS, and it was like the greatest thing that could have ever happened to us. We're in outer space now. It's amazing. It's really hard to quantify, as you all can guess and probably know better than Sal and I could ever talk to you about, but we have billions and billions of impressions every year. None of it's paid. At least not by us. Surely there are nonprofits that invest some ad budget on Giving Tuesday, but by and large, this is almost exclusively organic, user-generated content. 21 billion impressions in 24 hours. It blows my mind every time I even think about numbers that big. So who's talking about Giving Tuesday? Some of the world's biggest celebrities talk about generosity on Giving Tuesday. Everyone from Lin-Manuel Miranda to Charli D'Amelio, which just blew our minds. By the way, 150 million followers. Who has this? We're honored and humbled to have been Noodles the dog on TikTok. Giving Tuesday was Noodles the dog's last post. We're just like bereft about the whole thing. And the comment that we left on his owner's RIP Noodles post, I still like, I'm going to cry about this, is our most liked comment of all time. And it's just a testament of the kind of community that we're rallying. And it's all in the name of generosity. It's incredible. Last year, Mr. Beast, I guess he's another guy who has 150 million followers. This is, I can't even understand what this is like. He mobilized his community of millions and millions to go out and do acts of kindness on Giving Tuesday. One thing that I'll note that's been fascinating for me personally to watch over these past 10 years has been this kind of shift from the early days of Twitter. It was just celebrities, right? It was celebrities were on there, and this shift to creators, right? That's like another webinar for another time, but I just find it notable and indeed fascinating. The celebrities were kind of just posting about their favorite nonprofits, like, fine, that's cool. But what we're much more excited about is the work these creators are doing, right? They're Giving Tuesday is a big hit with creators because it allows for complete agency and total creative control into whatever it is that you want to do. There aren't any rules, right? All you have to do is have some sort of spin on generosity. That's the only rule. You can't be selfish. Has to do with generosity. And so we love the creators and their unique spin on the movement. I'm not going to lie, we also love the 150 million followers that they're sometimes bringing with them into the movement. Not going to lie about that. Anyhow, in the very early days of Giving Tuesday, we used to write names on the whiteboard of like celebrities who we thought would be really cool if they just tweeted about Giving Tuesday. And it was like Oprah, Justin Bieber, and the Pope, right? But what we found really is that the power of Giving Tuesday and the reason that it went viral had nothing to do with the celebrities at all, nothing to do with these massive following from the creators, but it had to do with this woman who's in the center here. Her name is Tracy. And Tracy's sign says, I may not be famous, I don't have $1 million, but I can still change lives on Giving Tuesday. And the reason that Giving Tuesday exists, the reason the movement spread as far and wide as it did, even up to space, is ordinary people took the mission into their hearts and spread it within their own networks. It's a bottom-up approach to making change in the world, right? Here's some of the media hits that we get each year. If you turn on radio, TV, media of any type on November 28th this year, you are almost assuredly to find someone talking about Giving Tuesday somewhere on all of your favorite media outlets. Again, we don't organize or pay for any of this stuff. It is just Giving Tuesday is so much part of the zeitgeist these days. It's incredible to be a part of. These are some of the brands that participate in Giving Tuesday every year. So yes, Giving Tuesday is big. And yes, we get known as like, oh, that day that everybody fundraises for nonprofits and charities, but it's so much more than that. When my colleagues came up with the idea of Giving Tuesday, they didn't say, hey, let's create the biggest Guinness World Record breaking crowdfunding day of all time. It consistently is that every year, but that's not my point. The reason that Giving Tuesday exists is so that we can build the world that we all imagine to be possible. The mission of Giving Tuesday, the organization that I work for, is to create a world that's based on radical generosity, which is this notion that someone else's suffering should be as intolerable to us as our own suffering. What if we could create a society that's more inclined to generosity, to showing up in the world that way? Will that it lend itself to other pro-social behaviors? And our data is showing that it is. What you get are people who are more inclined to vote, more inclined to become active members of civil society, and more inclined to just be neighbors, right? And like participate deeply in society that way. There's still so much more work to do. I'd argue that this work has never been more critical than it is right now, right? So what this means for me as a person who's in charge of communications and digital strategy and scaling and using those things to scale and grow this movement is that theoretically, our target audience is indeed actually anyone with a pulse, right? Which, as you all in the audience know, is like the number one rule in marketing, right? Your audience is not everyone. Actually, my audience is everyone. It's really wild. And so Sal's going to show you in a little bit kind of how we're using Pulsar to start to identify and narrow down our viable target audiences and how we're like using Pulsar to focus on not everyone with a pulse, focus on our primary audiences and what sort of messaging that we can develop that resonates with those groups. Our social media strategy at Giving Tuesday is really built around the question, what if people could use their passions and their creativity to make the world a more loving and generous place? For the past 10 years, we've been turning casual internet users into change makers and harnessing their energy for good, which is something that we're intensely proud of. And we'll talk about this at length to anyone who listens. So thanks again, Sal, for offering us your audience. We're doing things online like inserting ourselves into social conversations and like, can you pivot some of these really vitriol conversations into something that's more positive? We're hijacking memes. We are jumping on trends. We are covering as much of social media as we can on our own channels and through collab with others. Ideas for how people can be giving back, right? How people can be behaving more generously in their everyday lives. And what we found is that if people are able to see themselves in the thing that you're posting about, they're much more likely to see themselves as the solution to whatever problem it is that you're trying to solve. And they're much more inspired to go out and actually take action toward it. So we're out here in our little corner of the internet trying to be a beacon of light. And we're up against a lot, right? It's a lot of vitriol on social media, a lot of division, no matter where it is that you look. Always has been, probably even more so as we enter the 11th year of Giving Tuesday. But the one thing that we genuinely believe is that everyone in the world has a common value in generosity. That's the one thing that we all celebrate together equally, right? And we believe at Giving Tuesday that if we can grow more of that, if we can inspire more of that, if we can harness more of that energy, that's the way that we are going to build the world that we all seek to live in. That's my rant. I hope it was helpful to you. I hope it was inspiring to you. I would love to pass it over to my friend Sal here, who's going to tell you more about what I just mentioned, about how we are using social and Pulsar to move the needle on generosity.
Wow, just first of all, before I start on my stuff, that's incredible. If anyone's been paying attention to how huge those stats are, my mind is blown. I can't believe it. And also, I've got an apology to make for everyone. I don't have many memes in my part of the presentation. I'm so sorry. Well, maybe one. Well, yeah, next time. I think that's something I can learn from you. Incredible. So again, if anyone has any questions about that, I mean, we've had a couple of questions come in that I think we'll save to the end because I think that they are kind of best looked at, like kind of in retrospect with what I'll show you as well. Yeah, and I guess I'll just dive right in. All right, awesome. So I'm going to take you through some of the kind of stats and figures that we've got surrounding Giving Tuesday. So I'm doing remote control. Oh, there we go. It's got a huge lag, so I'm very sorry, everyone. I click and then we wait. So this is the giving landscape so far. As you can see, anyone mentioning generosity on Twitter at any point here is also mentioning with it this little bit Giving Tuesday. There's an association of generosity until we hit bam, Giving Tuesday. So this is 2022, all of it, and all the mentions on Twitter. So as you can see, mentions of generosity do spike on Giving Tuesday, but the mentions of Giving Tuesday spike incredibly, as you would expect. So we've got kind of an annual presence still trickling alongside following generosity, which I think is really, really important to note. Now moving forward.
And I'm going to butt in while it's changing. And this is our dream, right?
Please do.
We're not just about one day. Our vision is that this is behavior that is happening year round. And so what can we be doing to galvanize? Yes, we have one day, but what can we do to galvanize that kind of energy that happens on the one day all throughout the year?
Sure, exactly. I feel like that is the main thing that we found with Giving Tuesday is kind of a through line of generosity running through that. Well, I'll be able to tell you. So there was an embedded video here that seems to have, or maybe
it's coming.
Oh, there we go. Look, it's coming into it's appearing magically. I think I can't press play on this. You know what I'm going to do is instead of doing this remote control, I'm going to just ask next slide, please, if that's possible. Would you be able to click on the video? Oh, well, no one ever try and embed a video into PowerPoint. That's never going to happen. So I think what all this was is a little screen grab video of our partnership with Giving Tuesday. So what we did is we kind of gave an hourly analysis of the organization types that the audience is most associated with Giving Tuesday. the words most mentioned in conjunction with Giving Tuesday, and the way audiences were including calls to action. So this is stuff like donate, very we'll be going through it in a bit more detail. And as you can see in the little screen grab that we've got here, sorry that there's no whole video, but we have a last updated 9 a.m. We did this for the whole 24 hours surrounding Giving Tuesday, and it was incredible to see how things shifted as parts of the world went to sleep, part of the world woke up, and then afterwards we have actually put this all into a wonderful blog that you'll be able to see very soon, that will be released, and it goes much more in depth than anything I've got to show you today. So if you're interested in that, do keep an eye out for it. I'm moving on to the next slide. It may work, it may not. There we go. These are the key words in the Giving Tuesday 2022 conversation. So nothing too surprising here. We've got giving, help today, support Tuesday, surprise, surprise, donate, donation, gift, and then this word that really sticks out to me, consider. And I think that goes back to what we were saying earlier, doesn't it, about changing that mindset. I think you called it radical generosity. Is that what it? Yeah, radical generosity. And I think it goes into that feeling of it. Have you considered another way of thinking about this? And I think by seeing our keywords here, obviously we've got the giving, help, today, support. We know, we kind of can imagine that around donations, these words would appear, but consider is an incredible one, because what we're asking there as an audience, what everyone, I mean, like you said, this audience is mammoth and huge, and we'll get to breaking it down shortly. But this is a real way to get people to just kind of instigate those small changes that can maybe kind of avalanche, as you suggested earlier. Now we're moving into the hashtags around Giving Tuesday 2022, obviously excluding hashtag Giving Tuesday or # Giving Tuesday, as you called it earlier. Hashtag donate, hashtag donors choose, hashtag teacher Twitter. Teacher Twitter is a really interesting one here because it shows the small community in there. So I don't know if people are aware of places on Twitter, little subsections like marketing Twitter, education Twitter, teacher Twitter. This is a community that is engaging very heavily in Giving Tuesday. And it's something that, it's a very niche community on the internet in general. And you can see that there's a huge uptick in people interacting in there. We've also got kind of a meme hashtag. So we've got hashtag dogs, obviously, but then we've also got, if you can go, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but we've got hashtag saving doges, which is obviously using this kind of millennial meme language to be able to instigate people into the world of giving to, maybe they're asking for donations for their local animal shelter or something like this. I find that very, very...
Wait, Sal, go back. Is it Doge? Like Doge dog?
Oh, sure. Yeah, this is not a typo. Doge like Doge. Yeah.
No, so it's the crypto community, right? Because the Doge is the mascot for the Bitcoin. That's what that is. It's the crypto community.
Of course, you just out-cryptoed me. This is me, crypto. But that's incredible. So I have noticed. I've got some more to say on Crypto Bros later. But yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, we'll get to it later. The crypto bros are, they're great on Giving Tuesday. They're really super into it, have been for a while now. They grew their community this past year, and they're
so you've outschooled me there. Saving Doges, that makes so much sense with the Dogecoin. Because I've been seeing, there is obviously a lot of hashtag dogs, hashtag dogs of Twitter over here as well. And we do see obviously a huge section of people loving dogs.
Spending Doges though. I'm not familiar enough with the parlance of crypto, but I wonder if they're giving their Dogecoin. So I don't know.
Yeah, if we've got any crypto heads in the chat, please do pop in what you think there. That's really interesting because I've got something to tell you about crypto later. Let's get back into the overview. So this is the top causes in the Giving Tuesday conversation for this year. If you just go back one slide, thank you. Health and healthcare is coming in at taking up kind of 20% of that conversation. Children and the elderly and animal welfare as well. And discrimination. So this is kind of to combat discrimination and promote equality around the world. Are coming in as a top 4 there. I mean, there's not much in it within those top 4. I think it's really interesting to think about that. And I think that when we move into our next slide, looking at how those relate to each other, would be very, very interesting. these are those calls to action that I was describing earlier. So we've got people talking about empowerment, direct appeal, urgency, and a sense of duty. These are the kind of four main ways that we identified people were urging people to donate, make a change, get involved with generosity. So I think that that's really interesting to see the urgency being obviously the highest one. I think we all know that in the charity sector that making something seem like it needs to happen now will instigate a donation much better. But this empowerment is very, very interesting. It's very interesting to think about because we think about a lot of people think about they say do-gooders as a kind of negative. They use it as kind of a slanderous thing. Oh, you're a do-gooder. Well, I think obviously one of the benefits of getting involved with generosity is the kind of reciprocity that we feel as a community, that it feels good as a human being to engage with these communities and whichever cause that you can see on the left here give you a feeling of empowerment. I think that's obviously not, it's just one of many ways to be able to call people to action and get people involved. Let's see how these two relate to
the more
each other.
effective way in my mind too, if your call to action is instilling a sense of empowerment in somebody, that's going to be your more effective ROI. If you're a nonprofit looking for ROI, that kind of call to action is going to be your best route. But that urgency, I think because we are, and this is really all these charts are in relation to the 24-hour period of Giving Tuesday, because it's celebrating this one day. I don't know that we're ever going to get away from the call of urgency, but we're hoping to see more empowerment calls to action. They're more inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. This is it. So when we saw that empowerment was quite a large section of that chart before, didn't we? But we can see here that when we look at the top three causes, kind of animal welfare, or some of the top three causes in just 2022, animal welfare, healthcare, children and the elderly, and we break that down into these calls to action, we can see that the empowerment is kind of a smaller part of that. And that maybe leads me to believe that sections or sectors, causes that are not receiving the most publicity in the wider world are the ones using empowerment. So not only, before we get into what we can see in the chart here, let's talk about what we can't see. We can't see a lot of empowerment from these top three causes using CTAs. So it calls to action. So it's really interesting to think about empowerment as something that smaller charities can be using or more fringe causes can be using in order to kind of drive that, as you said, the ROIs and things like that. I mean, I know we've had a question come in already about something like that, and we'll get into it more in the Q&A. We can see obviously urgency, animal welfare, urgency. There's always an urgency around this. It makes complete sense. But then when we look at children and the elderly, for example, the biggest segment there is into duty. So kind of appealing to people's nature, appealing to their kind of humanity, I guess, in a way. Without dwelling on this too much, let's move on to our audience. On my delay here. There we go. So we've got here, we can see this is the breakdown of the community involved in the Giving Tuesday conversation online. So each node represents a section of the community, how big it is, represents its kind of power, and the lines connecting them, how their proximity is, how interconnected these sub-audiences are. So here we've got, I mean, you can see just kind of some groups here. We've got human rights defenders, US sport fans, healthcare advocates. I think US sport fans here is a really interesting one. It's kind of we always get a very heavily present US sport fan section, and then sometimes we get these geographic sections, UK charity workers, kind Canadians here, and then we get some maybe that are.
Sal, I want to tell you, until we got Pulsar, I did not realize that US sports fans would even show up, let alone in the quantity that they are here, right? Absolutely blew my mind the first time I saw this. I think we've had Pulsar 2 years now, maybe 3. And so what we've done is put a little bit more of our time and energy into hey, can we go call the NFL? And can we go call ESPN? Hey, there's a sector of your audience who's really into Giving Tuesday. So what you should do is put together something on Giving Tuesday. And it worked. We had a bunch of Major League Baseball teams come out last year, show up. One of them did a bus tour around the Bronx to give baseball equipment and food to kids in the Bronx who might not be able to go see a baseball game and get autographs and things like that. Super cool.
Wow.
Might not have happened
That's
if I didn't
so
know
super cool.
that U.S. sports fans would be really into Giving Tuesday. So it's great.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of other stories
yeah. And it's so interesting that you said, let's reach out to ESPN. So I just got the metric up whilst you were telling us that story, that wonderful baseball story in front of us. 19% of this subsection of US sport fans follow ESPN. If you can say, look at this subsection of our audience and 19% of them are going to see a tweet from ESPN, let's get involved with ESPN. That's a huge correlation, by the way. That's something that's actually absolutely incredible and we'd love to see.
I'm
just going to show you a little
commercial
detail
on ESPN for this year. Cross your fingers and your toes.
Get the Super Bowl.
We're going to get
Super Bowl.
Get the Super Bowl.
You should. We'll make it work. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a an insider into some of the top tweets for each of these segments. Because if you look at the most engaged tweets, you're going to be able to find where you could use that kind of language, you could use that kind of content to be able to really reach people. So we've got here UK charity workers. I thought I'd start with being in the UK today. This one is calling out to a very specific cause here. So many mums can't afford to buy Christmas presents after fleeing domestic abuse. This Giving Tuesday, will you help? This was from a charity that is giving a very direct cause to action, and they are asking for a direct thing, appealing in that kind of sense of duty, as we saw before, that very nurturing side of people. We've got here in this next one, equality and justice activists. We have a meme, my only meme that I'm going to be able to give you. I keep laughing at the email subject lines that say, it's Giving Tuesday. It really is. For those unaware of the kind of online meme culture, it's giving. It's reminiscent of. It's reminiscent of Tuesday. It's very it's used in a lot of memes. And here it's very interesting to see that what this tweet that was very popular. I think a lot of people may have seen this tweet, even if they're not anywhere engaged with Giving Tuesday. This tweet shows that people are getting emails about Giving Tuesday. People are receiving communications internally in their companies, maybe from brands that they follow, promoting Giving Tuesday. So we can see here that Giving Tuesday is pervading the culture as a whole, which is obviously something that's just an incredible win for you guys to see. You said this is one of the best tweets that you saw in 2022. Is that right?
That's one of my favorites. I smile. I replied something quippy, but I can't remember what it was now. But I did schedule a tweet for next year. If Twitter is still with us, we'll see. That says something to the effect of "It's giving Tuesday," and we'll see if I go viral with this thing. It's great. Jumping on the trends, jumping on the memes.
I love it, and also just letting this meme run with it. I mean, this has done so much for the brand. We've got next environmentalist animal lovers. Today's Giving Tuesday. Join me in making a difference to the Rare Impact Fund and enjoy 15% off. So it's kind of an incentive. You donate, and we'll give you something. This is a brand, and I'll tell you more about that brand shortly. And then we have this brand with this group subsection, religious donors. On this Giving Tuesday, I joined Ripe Revival to distribute their fresh and nutritious food to insecure families in rural North Carolina. This is really interesting to me because this, on the face of it, would seem people who are religious donating their time as well as money. Though I have a bit of a reveal for you shortly. Also, I think really interesting to note is the celebrity involvement. So that tweet on the animal activism side is actually Selena Gomez, none other. I mean, you talked a lot about celebrity involvement earlier. Obviously, Selena Gomez being a very kind of an icon for a lot of millennials, younger people. She's still making music. She talks openly about her body. She talks openly about social issues. And so for her to kind of use this as an opportunity to talk about Giving Tuesday, it's great. Use her platform and from her vegan makeup brand. It's very aligned with her kind of politics, and is very interesting and gained huge traction among that group of people. On the other hand, we have the religious donor side. This person was actually Ivanka Trump, who I imagine had plenty of money to donate on the day as well, and I hope that she did. But she was also donating her time and encouraging her followers to donate her time as well. I included these two examples to just kind of show how Giving Tuesday really spans people. It spans culture. It spans everyone. Yeah, I thought it was very interesting to see these two being top of their top tweets in their sub audiences. I am now going to share with you something that is going to be spoken more about in our upcoming blog. So really do keep an eye out for it and sign up to our newsletter that is on our website. This is alternate ways of giving. So thinking about just in terms of non-monetary ways of giving. I mean, we talked about that earlier, didn't we? About the way that people can donate, like the baseball story, right? They were donating kind of an experience to these kids.
Yeah, an
right?
experience.
That's so cool.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, donating an experience or donating that kind of yeah. So what we've got here is we've got fundraisers, people putting on fundraisers. Maybe if you don't have the funds, so you can't give this chunk of money to a charity that you support, but you could maybe put in the time and effort to organize an event. Similarly,
now,
volunteering.
This is going to be,
volunteering your time.
I have a question. This is going to be both people who are talking about giving to a fundraiser and like nonprofits who are putting on a fundraiser. Both, right?
Yeah, so the strings here, so what we've done is we've taken the whole Giving Tuesday conversation and put it and kind of filtered it through with these kind of qualifiers that we've got in there. So we've kind of taken out noise of people talking about fundraisers generically, and we're trying to get people talking about putting on fundraisers, or I'm going to a fundraiser, or consider putting on a fundraiser, or join our fundraiser, or this is our fundraiser, or even a virtual fundraiser. So for example, crowdsourcing, that kind of thing. And on those platforms. Same with volunteering. We've got strings to stuff in here, say volunteered. People saying meet our volunteers. People saying I'm going to be volunteering at this time. Why don't you join me? This kind of thing. We've got clothes and item donation. So that's people talking about donating not their money, but donating clothes. What did I put in? We've got clothes, supplies, like healthcare supplies, or like nappies, things like this, diapers, and toys as well, which is obviously a huge part of donating. We've got people offering their online platforms. So this is people saying, please reshare, please post, please share this. That is a huge part of that conversation. I would have expected that to be bigger, seeing as the conversation's online, but maybe it's harder to measure. Then we've got people putting on talks, educational seminars, webinars, that kind of thing. And then finally, we've got food donation. So this is people donating to food banks, not donating their time at food banks, that would come under volunteering, but people donating food, people donating either taking food, like a leftover situation, or potluck, that kind of thing, or donating like canned goods, things like that, to food banks. And a kind of a lovely story that I wanted to share in the face of this cost of living crisis that seems to be spanning the globe, is the way that alternate ways of giving has changed between 2021 and 2022. So this is both of those together. So this is just the last 2 years in general. And then this is 2021 versus 2022. So as you can see here, a couple of them have kind of found a downtick, but volunteering and mentions of volunteering is on the rise there. That's a steady increase in the thousands. Same with donating clothes, donating food. I feel like this is kind of reflective of a people who are wanting to be giving, still wanting to be generous, but maybe feeling a financial squeeze and being able to find those ways to do that. I think that this is just incredible, and I don't have the total here. I don't know why I didn't put it in, but it has gone up. The overall total of all of this alternate ways of giving mentions have gone up, which I think is absolutely wonderful, indicative maybe of people feeling this radical generosity. Generosity is a way of living. Generosity is a mindset. But I think that's all my my data, all my numbers, and all my info that I can throw at you right now. Did you have any other case studies to give? I mean, we have time for a couple before we get into Q&A.
Say, do I? If I don't know if it's going to show my slides. No, it's not going to let me. That's okay. I have one that I want to share about food donation. Let me,
Yeah,
no, it's okay. We don't need to.
I can
We
grab
don't
that
need
for
to.
you.
We can, don't worry about it. We can talk.
Okay.
Food donation. I had this group. They were so lovely. Oftentimes we don't find out about what happens on Giving Tuesday until months and months after, because it's just so
Mm.
much to sift through. And like the bulk of my job, like a lot of my energy is focused on those 8 weeks after Giving Tuesday of scrolling through Instagram because to find all the stuff, right?
Mm.
Yes. In any case, there was a lovely group in some rural town in the United States, and they gathered up all of their neighbors, and they all created lasagnas or casseroles
Oh,
all
wow.
together on Giving Tuesday, and then they were going to bring them to the homeless shelters so that the folks who are experiencing homelessness might have a really lovely home cooked meal on Giving Tuesday. And they
Wow.
had a really clever name for it, and I can't even think of what it was now, but it was this like casserole train. Really, really beautiful. And these are the kind of acts of generosity that we're hoping to see, right?
Hmm.
Every single one of us
Definitely.
has something to give, whether it's like a talent of yours. Like I can't bake a casserole, so I don't think I could participate in this. But we had another group who they knitted hats and scarves, and they put them in a little Ziploc bag, which maybe they'll do a tote bag next year, but they would put them with a little note in the park that said, I'm not lost. I am free and available to anybody in the
Mm.
city of Omaha who is cold and needs this. Uh, Tears to my eyes when I see things like that. And it's
That's amazing.
humbling and
That's so
incredible.
wonderful. I mean, I love stuff like that. And I think that these alternate ways of giving are going to be on the rise. And I'm looking forward to this partnership with Giving Tuesday and seeing what this year, 2023, brings. We've got some questions and I thought we could get into them for the last kind of 15
Let's
minutes
do
of the
it.
hour, if that's
Yeah,
okay.
let's do it. Let's do
Awesome.
it. Let's
Let's take off
stop
slide so
share
people can
and
see us. Yeah,
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
So we've got a couple of some generic ones and some specific ones. So I'll start with a more generic one. And we've got, oh, there's such wonderful questions. Do you have any extra examples of how audiences have reacted towards your messaging in an unexpected way? And how did you choose to react?
Okay, here's one. And I don't think it's unexpected to us. It might be unexpected to others. Sometimes people will tell me that it's bad to show your giving online, right? Like I think the
Hmm.
premise is it's normally religious folks. The thing that surprised me most about it though, actually, is it's a lot of Gen Z on TikTok will reply and comment like, okay, that's really great, but they should have not posted it. They should have been
Okay.
humble. They should have like kept their generosity a secret. I'm not positive that I completely understand it, but there's a notion that maybe generosity should not be publicly displayed. And our answer to this is that if we don't show our generosity, it's not going to inspire more of it. If we don't make generosity and giving and kindness a common norm, that we are all participating in, all of us around the world, if we don't share, we're not going to inspire more of it. So that's been
Yeah.
a little bit of not a hurdle for us, but an interesting
Mm.
conundrum and an interesting little battle that we're up against here. It's fascinating
Yeah,
how
I
many
wouldn't
Gen
expect that.
Zers have
Yeah.
this opinion. I would not have expected it from Gen Z at all. But
Mm.
that's where my mind is tasked with, okay, well,
Mm.
what are some things that we can do to insert in our messaging to help inspire
Mm.
or combat this notion that giving should be secret, right? Or generosity
Yeah.
should be kept
Yeah.
internal.
I think you've learned something incredible there as well, which is obviously you've learned where this is coming from. You've learned what the message is and where it's coming from, the surprising message, but you've learned something that you can use for all of your overall goal, which is, so you need to really explain to this sub audience why talking about it is purposeful, and that's the that kind of ethos and why that's necessary. So you'll be able to, through this, be able to really concretely weave your ethos into your messaging and say, hey, look, actually, guys, do share. This is why sharing works. Like psychologically, let's create an avalanche kind of thing. That's very
Yep.
interesting. Um,
Exactly. I'm
oh,
thinking about
yeah.
doing a TikTok live this year, hopefully with TikTok, fingers
Oh,
crossed, on exactly this topic, so we can try to reach as many folks as
mm,
possible around like, okay,
that's
why
really
is it,
cool.
what is the history of Giving Tuesday? Because they don't know. These are really, really young folks. And why are we out here peddling the notion that we all should be more public with our generosity?
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, I'll be interested and I'll be tuning in for that. That's good. I'll re-download TikTok. I had to delete TikTok, spending too
If
much time
it's,
on it.
yeah,
It's
you and me
a
both.
it's a bit easy. Yeah. So let's get into a more specific one. So we've got one here from Ronnie at First Aiders Uganda. And Ronnie's just wondering a little bit about Giving Tuesday and supporting in Africa, and if you specifically there in Uganda. And yeah, they'd love some example of any kind of beneficiaries or kind of, but yeah, associations with Giving Tuesday and relating to Africa.
Yes, amazing. Ronnie, Giving Tuesday is open to absolutely everyone on the planet. There's no application to join. Charities are free and welcome to participate in Giving Tuesday. We provide a lot of tools on our website, both givingtuesday.org, but then we have a Giving Tuesday Africa Hub. And they have Africa local materials for charities, for givers, for teachers, schools, young people, any possible audience you can think of. And you can find all of that through givingtuesday.org, and then we will route you out to the appropriate place. There is a Giving Tuesday Uganda national campaign. You will find it on givingtuesday.org. Go over there, go to our global page, and you'll find Uganda, and you can get in touch with the leaders of Giving Tuesday Uganda. We'd love to have you. It's incredible. We are in, I think, 20 African nations now. Don't quote me. My team's going to be mad at me that I can't do this. But 90
We can
nations
forgive you for not
overall.
having all stats
All the
right off
stats in
the
the world,
bat.
right? The social media
Yeah.
person has to have all the stats at all times. But all are welcome, and that's the beauty about it. You can turn it into whatever it is that you want. So in a lot of our nations, generosity might not be as commonly expressed by giving financial donations. A few years ago, when Venezuela was in the height of their civil war, the leaders of Giving Tuesday Venezuela were like, we cannot be asking people for money right now. There's a major crisis, and we can't be asking folks for money. So what they did was they gave instead. They organized a bunch of folks, again, with food. Food is a very, very common theme in generosity. But what they did was they rallied volunteers all over the country to make empanadas, and they gave them to just anyone who wanted one. And it warmed people's hearts, and it warmed people's souls, and it gave them a little bit of sense of joy that day, which is just incredible. And so countries participate in a lot of different ways. Some countries heavily focus on charitable fundraising, and others don't. Others heavily focus on volunteerism because they'll find that in their country, that's how generosity is most expressed.
Amazing.
We have a data division of Giving Tuesday, and this is a lot of what it is that they study all year long. And then there's pop-up data hubs all across the world, and this is what they're studying. How do people commonly express generosity in each country, and what can we be doing to leverage more of that? It's really amazing. So Ronnie, come join
That's
us.
so
Go
cool.
to givingtuesday.org, and all of you go to givingtuesday.org, where you can find out everything there is to know about joining the Giving Tuesday movement.
Everyone definitely do that. I mean, that's a better advert than I could ever do. That's incredible. I mean, it's also interesting to hear about how different countries will interact with Giving Tuesday. Different networks will interact with Giving Tuesday in different ways. I think that's something so wonderful about studying this, is that you can really get into the nuance of where those things happen, and there's a lot to be learned about the concept of generosity in general. Before I get excited about talking about that, I'm gonna go back to our questions, because we've got a few here. We've got did any big private organizations? We've got a little technical question. Will a recording of this session be shared with attendees? I missed most of the session. Yes, it will. A recording will be sent to you shortly. I'm not sure about how the timing of Zoom, but they'll be processing the recording and sending it out to you. So that you can have that and you can be able to share it as well with anyone else in your organization who you think would be interested. back to the question. Did any big private organizations, BMGF, Rockefeller, etc., join in? If yes, how? What was the learning? A very cool question.
Yes, lots. For those who may not know, BMGF is Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They're one of our funders of our organization. They are one of our longtime funders of the movement, have been with us since the beginning. Besides funding us, they've participated in all kinds of different ways over these past 10 years. One year they did a match. Some of the other foundations, Ford Foundation funds us. You can find a number of others who participate in Giving Tuesday. We'll do all kinds of different things. The most popular thing to do for big foundations is to fund locally. And so we have in the United States, I mentioned the 90 country campaigns. And then within the United States, if we drill down, there's like 400 city campaigns or town campaigns or civic campaigns. Sometimes there's coalition campaigns where they'll be like Giving Zoo Day and all of the nation's zoos participate in Giving Tuesday together. And they built a website where anyone who's interested in giving to zoos can give to any of the zoos in one easy click. In any case, the foundations are really great about funding and supporting those local Giving Tuesdays. Before I joined the Giving Tuesday team, I ran I'll Give Illinois Giving Tuesday, and it was a big fundraising day for all 900 nonprofits in the Chicagoland area and throughout Illinois. And we mobilized foundations to put some money in a pot for us to do a marketing campaign. We said, look, Chicago nonprofits are having a real hard time reaching new donors. What we'd like to do is run a blitz marketing campaign across Chicago and across Illinois. We want to buy billboards. We want to buy the front page, full page ad in the newspaper, these things. And so we asked a number of our foundation partners, the biggest foundations in Chicago, actually, we're really proud of this, to pool their money together to help us achieve our vision of pulling off this massive marketing campaign. And they felt great about it because it's a way for them to indirectly support a number of organizations. Foundations are not able to support absolutely every nonprofit on the planet, but this is a way for them to expand and exponentially increase their investment in a really direct way and a really effective and impactful way, because here we are pulling in people who might not have ever given before in their lives to give on Giving Tuesday to a Chicago charity. So foundations participate in a number of different ways. We have a foundation and grant maker toolkit. If you are a foundation or a grant maker in the audience today, if you go to our website and click on how to participate, there is a splash page just for you with ideas for how you can participate. If you are a person who has a foundation near you and you'd like to convince them to participate, by all means, we have a toolkit there for you to share with your local funders.
Amazing. I've got two more questions I'm going to try and fit into the last 5 minutes here. I really hope that we can. We have a third question that says, what audience surprised you the most? But I think that we kind of covered that when we talked about the Gen Z. Yeah, very surprising. How can the UN or similar organizations participate, also raise funds for their own initiatives?
The UN Foundation was one of our earliest partners. When we had thought of this idea, how do you start a holiday? Who has the kind of audience of folks that we would need to go to help us build power and create such things? We're very grateful to have really close partnership through 92nd Street Y with UN Foundation. So they've been wonderful to us over the years. I think in the first year of Giving Tuesday, it was actually the UN Foundation that managed the Giving Tuesday social channels. And their wonderful creative teams were kind of just like doing this off the side of their desk, for which we are eternally grateful. I think there's a lot of different ways that the UN can participate in Giving Tuesday. And I'm thinking specifically about the SDGs, right? What I'd love to see is, I mentioned a little bit that our vision is to have this happening not just once a year, but every Tuesday, right? And then eventually every day. So we have a content program called Giving Every Tuesday. And if you are a follower of our social media page, I hope you are. Every Tuesday, you will receive a call to action that's generally formed around the SDGs. So last week was, or this past week, yesterday, I don't know my days, was around Earth Day, right? And what can we be doing on Earth Day to promote the SDGs in our local lives, in our homes? What can we be doing to give back toward our Earth? And most of my weekly days are formed around the SDGs because they're important. Because 2030 is coming way sooner than I think any of us realize.
Yeah, and do get in touch as well. The person who it was an anonymous question put in, but do get in touch with us because we'll be able to talk to you all about how those specific fundraising goals that you kind of mentioned in your question. We can talk specifically about them.
Yeah. And I forgot, I usually say this during our presentations, just DM the @GivingTuesday account, whatever your preferred social media platform of choice, and you will reach me on my cell phone, and I will gladly answer your questions. Just remind me that you came to today's
it feels
session,
like you have
and
infinite hours in the day. Yeah.
I try.
And I think this is a good closing question. If we could keep it to a minute or so. I'm so sorry because I don't want to pull us over the hour. But how do you, at Giving Tuesday, create a strong variety of messaging for a spectrum of different communities that still connects as many groups and links those groups as much as possible? I think I can tell you what links those groups together. Radical generosity.
I mean, this is where this is easier for us than it is for almost any one organization in the world, right? And I mentioned this at the top of my presentation. The thing that absolutely anyone on the planet or in outer space has in common is this value of generosity. So my messaging itself, my messaging architecture, all of our talking points are broadly the same. And we broadly use these same set of talking points, no matter where it is that we're speaking in the world. There's some nuance, right? We empower and encourage our local leaders to use different words, use different language, use the common language of your nation, your rural Appalachian town. Reword this in a way that's going to resonate with your community. But other than that, we haven't had to develop at all subsets of messaging, because this notion that we should all just be kinder, gentler, radically generous people resonates across the board. But what I will say is what's been intensely helpful with the network map that Sal had showed you, for me identifying the type of people who are really interested in generosity and really interested in giving, it allows me to spend my time where those people are. Right. And so when I find out that Gen Z, while they're hesitant to share it, they're also really interested in participating in generosity, and they're really, really kind and generous people. So I know that TikTok is a place that I can go for that. And I know that I can hit them with memes in a way that I might not be able to do with perhaps the sports fans. Oh, maybe that's not a good example, but with perhaps my moms who are on Facebook, or my grandmothers who are on Facebook, or what have you. Mm-hmm. So it's not so much a messaging change. It's more of a content strategy thing that is the issue for me. But Pulsar's been intensely helpful in all of this.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing all of your insights and research today. I think it's so super cool. I think we could talk about any of these points, for any of the points that you mentioned. We could talk about them for a whole further hour, but I'm afraid we've come to the end of the hour. We've got to say goodbye. But yes, if anyone has any further questions that they didn't get a chance to write in the box, or you're sitting down later and you think, oh, I wish I'd asked that, feel free to reach out to us, or indeed email info@givingtuesday.org or @givingtuesday on any social channel. And yeah, thank you so much, Kathleen Murphy-Toms, for joining us. It's been so insightful, and do keep an eye out for our collaborative blog that's coming out. Sign up to our newsletter, and yeah, I'll see you very soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thanks so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.